What's going on, guys and gals? This is Autotech. Today we're going to be doing the lube on the rear swing arm bearings. We're also going to take the little piece out of the shock to lube that as well. That's part of your 20K service on the Tiger 800. I took mine a little bit past the 20K mark, and I would say that the grease and everything that I put in there was definitely in very good condition. So, you know, I'm not official by any means, but, you know, if you accidentally go to that 30K mark or even the 40K mark, provided you're not like crossing a river, like if you're doing a whole bunch of like submerging this thing in water, you should probably actually do it sooner. But if you're just riding this thing, a little bit of gravel roads here and there, then definitely, you know, you can leave it a little bit longer. It's not going to be the end of the world. You don't have to have the seat off, but since we're going to be doing other stuff for the 20K, I've already got the seat off, going to leave it off. Bike on the center stand is definitely crucial. You cannot lift it by the rear swing arm because you are going to be undoing the rear swing arm and removing it. So if you don't have a center stand, perhaps you can get a ratchet strap through here, just something up to the roof. That's not very safe, but you basically have to have the rear end just like unsupported. You got to remove it. That's the problem. Why do I have a ratchet strap in my hand? I will show you. All right, so to show you what I did with that ratchet strap, I looped it around the center stand through the front wheel, and then just enough that there's just a little bit of tension on it. And now the reason that I did that is we're going to be working at the back end of the bike, and so we're going to be like pushing the bike forwards. That keeps the center stand from swinging up. It's just a safety precaution I take. I have tried it once on my bike without doing this. Didn't have a problem. I do the back tire all the time without doing this. Not a big deal. But, you know, this isn't my bike, and I've got the tie strap or ratchet strap. So why not? You know, not a big deal. So before you go to just ripping and tearing, getting your back tire and stuff like that off, what I like to do is I like to just get everything ready. And what I mean by that is I basically break all of the bolts loose, and then from there I can just remove everything. Because, you know, if you have like your rear tire out of the way and then you're going to like break that swing arm loose, you're like really tilting back on that bike, and there's basically nothing back there except for that little arm on the center stand. So before you take the bike apart, just break all the hard to break bolts loose. Obviously something like your chain guard, don't worry about that. Like the torque on that thing is just minuscule, so it's not like you're going to tip the bike taking your chain guard off. So first up, I'm going to remove the swing arm covers, or the swing arm pivot covers. Basically, your bike might have a cover that looks like this. It might have something slightly different. If yours is like this, it's just a number 3 Allen, and you're going to just loosen it and it'll pop right out. So as you're going along for something like this, a little bit of organization definitely doesn't kill you. The swing arm, you're pretty good for bolts being different, but I can tell you for the plastics, all of the bolts are like the same except for the fact they're slightly different lengths. So that's super frustrating. Okay, so now that I got those covers off, get yourself like one little ratchet right here, and you're gonna want that to be able to swing into the foot peg. That's a 17 mil, and then this one is a 15/16. So you're gonna go ahead and get that in there. And then the torque on this isn't absolutely huge, but just take a look on the other side, because at some point that will... weird. Interesting. I was actually like really expecting that to like swing into the foot peg. That's what I had to do on my bike. I wonder if that bolt's kind of seized in there. Well, let's find out. Oh no. Oh, that's okay. Just luck. Luck, I guess. Maybe you'll luck out like I did too. But okay, so now the swing arm pivot is now loose. All right, so this part's going to be a little bit tough for me to film, but I'll just show you which bolts. So next, break this one loose, break this one loose, break this one loose, and then that'll pretty well be a majority of it. Like there's one more up in there. If you can see this bolt here, you probably won't be able to see it that well on the camera. But yeah, basically there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And all 3 of these are the same size. And then this top one is just a slightly different size. I'll have to check back in with you with what size that is. But the bolt side of it is a 16 millimeter, and then this side of it, the nut side of it, is a 17 millimeter. So go ahead and just crack all of those loose. Okay, so I hope this shows up on the camera, but those harder to get at bolts are actually the same size. It's a 17, and then the other side is a 16. For breaking free purposes, you can just use 2 wrenches like you see I am. For torquing, you're probably going to have to use a swivel socket just to get on that. And then this side is still fairly easy to get on. I don't think that's going to show up very well, but if you use a flashlight, you'll be able to see that bolt. It's really not too hard to see. Sorry that I can't get a better aim at it. I don't have like a lift to put these on, so I'm just working off the ground, but not the end of the world. Okay, so that's basically the hardest bolts to do. The rest of it is actually pretty straightforward. Now we're gonna go ahead and take the back tire off. I have a really detailed video for back tire removal, so if you go into my how-to section, I will show you like exactly what to remove and how to do it. We're gonna do like the quick and dirty method today, just because we're just simply taking the tire off, putting it back on. We're not, I mean, I guess, I don't know, I guess my other video is the beginner, you know, take your time, take this out, take this out. Today, it's just take the axle out, roll the tire forward, unhook the chain, get the tire out of there. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna loosen this with a 27. I really need to get a longer ratchet for at home. And you can see with the way that that swing arm was bouncing up, that's just how much it moves now that I have loosened all those bolts. So that was definitely a pretty quick way to get that back tire off. I would definitely say that that's a little bit more skilled. You know, like you definitely need to be a little bit more careful, pay a little bit more attention. What I'm doing now is I took an 8 millimeter, and there is a singular bolt, or no, sorry, there's 2 of them. 2 bolts holding these brake lines and ABS wires on there. So go ahead, get those 2 out of there, and then while you got the 8 millimeter on there, go ahead and take out these 2. All right, so just because the 2 of them are 8 millimeters does not mean that they are the same. So the 2 short ones are for your like brake line ABS retainer, and then the long ones are for your belt guard. Now, I'm just super anal about stuff like that, so if you notice, I went like brake and lower belt, long at belt. That's just how I remember it. If you're taking it apart, putting it back together immediately, you could probably remember, but at the same time, Ziploc bags are cheap. Your choice. So just one more thing to kind of throw in there. You're probably asking yourself, like, why did I have you remove this belt or chain guard? That's funny. I actually put belt. I didn't put chain. That's because, you know, Harley guy, right? But yeah, so anyways, the reason I had you remove that is because of the way that it sticks off at the bottom there. Basically, like if I accidentally drop it, it's probably going to break that. So why not just take the 2 bolts out? You can leave it in if you're super careful, or if you got a buddy helping you out. For me, I just don't want it in my way. I don't want to risk dropping it. I took it off. So now Basically you just pop this right off of there. It's got its little lip that it sits on. Just kind of lift it up out of the way, get a zip tie through there. Don't ever like let this thing drop. If you drop, what happens is it'll actually break the inside of your brake line. So it'll look like it's okay, and then you'll apply pressure to it and you'll get like a little balloon out the side of it. And the reason it does that is because it like stretches it. So yeah, definitely get that up out of the way. You can zip tie it twice if you need to. I should be pretty good. Yeah, that brake line's nice and out of the way now. So maybe I'll put one more. Let's put one more. Just because we're, you know, super official like that. So one more zip tie. This job actually does go pretty quick. It just takes longer because I'm, you know, not that good at it. Okay, so from there, we're going to take off this upper chain guard. So there is actually a 5mm Allen just right here inside this little hole. A little tough to find. Wiggle it. Come on now. All right, so to remove this upper chain guard, there is one 5mm Allen, one 5mm Allen, and then one more 5mm Allen. So go ahead and just take the 3 of those out. You can do it without taking this little heel rest off. I personally do it without taking it off. All right, once you remove those 3 bolts, this thing pretty well falls right out of it. So you won't be able to see it right now, but basically that bolt at the front there just kind of squishes this between the chain rubbing strip and the swing arm. So if you can't get it out of there, it's probably because you didn't get that bolt out of there. You know, you can just reach through there and like pop that bolt right out of there with your fingers. But now that this is off, get it out of your way. Okay, now that you've got that out of your way, just kind of zip tie your chain up so that it's out of your way. Everything is, you're going to be like working towards that direction. So having your chain out here like this really isn't the worst, but definitely don't let it just sit on the ground because, you know, as you can see, like the ground is dirty and it'll get all gunky in your chain, right? And then you're going to have to service your chain as soon as you're done. So we are actually almost there. Basically now we're going to, in order to get the swing arm out, we just take the 1 bolt out that's attached to the swing arm, and then we take this big center one out. So go ahead and just take the nut off of each of those. Oh, that's still actually just staying there. That is just cool. I hope it works out for you like that, because it kind of sucks when you have to reach right over the bike and deal with it like that. So yeah, definitely get this nut out. And then there is the 1 arm that is attached. Let's see if I can see it. This one right here. Get the nut off the other side of that one. All right, so now that you've got the nut off your swing arm pivot and the nut off of that wishbone, I don't know, technical name of it, we're gonna have to do this kind of like in one shot, just so that you can kind of see it all. So come over, grab the side of that nut. If you lightly lift up on your swing arm, see, now that's out. And then this will only go so far. Don't just let it like drop though. And I'm gonna keep this like this. And then here's where you need a little bit of finesse. Boy, that bolt's kind of stuck in there. All right. Okay, so now that you've got that undone, I don't think I can show it very well, but wiggle it a little bit while you work it backwards. Come on now. Yeah, there we go. So now I got it to pop free from this side. So now we just gotta, come on. There. So as you see, I tilt it slightly and then it just kind of slides right in there. Well, I wouldn't say slides right in there, but slides right out. Cool. There you go. There you have your swing arm is now out. Now that you've got your swing arm out of the way, you actually have really good access to that bolt, and that bolt. Go ahead and take those 3 out. You can do this one once it's on the bench if you want to, or you can do it while it's in the bike. But yeah, definitely go ahead, get those 3 bolts out. I think 2 of them are the same, 1 of them is different. Just pay attention as you take them out. And you know, if one is longer, like if I'm wrong, I'll definitely check back in with you and let you know. But as far as I know, the 2 are the same length, the 1 is a different length. Okay, so I got it out now. All 3 bolts are different. So the shortest one is the one that holds the shock. The longest one is the one that holds the dog bones, wishbones, whatever you want to call it. And then this one was the one that held this unit against the frame. So now that you got that, go ahead and just pop these out. It's kind of tough to do one-handed, but yeah, pop these out. And I'll check back in with you once we pop the 3 of those out. So just as you would have suspected, those little spacers are a different length as well. So I wouldn't really worry about putting those in the wrong place, but definitely keep them organized. Now you can actually see the bearings. These bearings are actually like super clean, so I'm not too concerned about like trying to like scrape them out or anything like that. You can just see that they're like super dry. Like there's absolutely no lube left on those spacers that ride in there. And then you can see that those bolts were actually starting to rust. This bike is an N18, and it's only got like 22,000 kilometers on it. So I would say that first, you know, service of these things is pretty important. Okay, I put the camera on my head so that now you can actually see both hands. I'm gonna go ahead and get another rag ready. You can just use normal paper towel. It doesn't have to be the blue ones. But basically, take a little dollop on your finger there, and what you're trying to do is you're trying to like push it into those rollers. So you're not just smearing it, but try and scoop it through it as well. I'll just do this one somewhat quickly, and then I can, you know, let you guys handle it the rest of the way there for the other 3. But yeah, so basically just, you know, pack that in there, make sure that that's well lubricated, and then what you're going to do is you're going to take this and put a nice coat on that, and then you will reinstall it. And all you got to do is just push it through, sort of. It will go. There we go. Get it somewhat centered again, and then we'll use this rag, clean off this excess. I did forget to mention that if you're like a hardcore off-roader, to clean the mud off of this before you like pop these out. So even if you take it to like your sink and wash it off, that wouldn't necessarily be the worst thing, just because you don't want to remove these spacers and then introduce a bunch of like grease into these, or not grease, mud into these bearings. So go ahead and do that for those other 3 bolts, and then we will check back in, or not bolts, spacers, bearings. So once you get all those spacers put back in there, make sure to wipe it up, get the grease off of there. You don't want like big gobs of it like stuck inside or like hanging out the side of it. And before you go and take your gloves off, just take whatever's left on your gloves and kind of put some smears just on these shoulders of the bolts. Do not put it on the threads though, just on these shoulders, the part that actually like rides in here. Yeah, I know some of the threads ride in there, but you know what I mean, right? Just the shoulder of the bolts, just put it there. Now that we've got this all ready to go, let's go ahead and get it set back into the bike. Don't put any of your nuts on yet though, just get the bolts through, and then we'll check back in. Oh, and just in case you forgot, the tall end goes to the top. So for the bolt that goes through the frame, oh, this is unopened. Let's open this. Wouldn't be a how-to video with Autotech if there wasn't some blue Loctite involved. Oh man, it's going everywhere. It's pulling an angry ginger. Okay, so for the bolt that goes through the frame and for the one that goes through the shock, put these two nuts on and then get them touched down. Okay, so now you're going to torque these two bolts to 80 Newton meters, which works out to about 65 foot-pounds. Now I know you're sitting there and you're thinking like, hold on a second, aren't you supposed to torque this with the load of the bike on it? Yeah, by the manual you're absolutely supposed to, but don't forget that it pivots in the bearing. You're not actually holding any sort of bushing like a control arm on a vehicle, so you're not going to get any sort of twisting or memory out of it. For getting on this one, the easiest is probably going to be a little bit of an extension or a deep socket so that you can get your, I don't know if you can see it, but let's see if we can find a better way to get on that. All right, let's see if I can show you this here. So I happen to have a swivel socket, so a little bit of an extension, a little bit of a swivel. I can get on that no problem. Hold a wrench on the other side. Do what you can. Obviously, as an absolute last case scenario, use your 2 wrenches on this one and see just how hard you have to pull to get that to shift just a little bit, and then do the same torque on that top one. At least you're going to be fairly close. You know, you got a feel for what the 80 Newton meters feels like. I'm sorry, there's not a whole lot of access to this bolt, so you're gonna have to just kind of figure it out. And that's why we're torquing it right now before everything's in the way, so that you can see where the torque wrench ends up going. For that nut that goes on this like dog bone, wishbone type thing, just kind of half-ass thread the nut on there just so that, if you're working on it, it doesn't fall apart on you. But don't tighten that one yet. We'll tighten that one when both of these are where they're supposed to go, so then you don't have any alignment issues. All right, so for your swing arm, same thing. If you do a lot of off-roading, a lot of riding in gravel, go ahead and clean this all off. And then it's gonna be the exact same thing as that joint. I don't know what the technical name for that thing is. The triangle thing. So you're just gonna go ahead and push these out. Don't worry if that outer seal comes off with it. It actually gives you pretty good access to the bearing. So you're gonna do the same thing again, clean this, get the grease all packed in there. If you're really super anal about it, you can try and like scrape whatever grease is in there out. I personally just pack more in, put it in. Since I do the maintenance on a regular basis, I'm not too concerned about what's in there. So use your best judgment. And so let's get these 2 bearings packed up, and then we'll check back in. Okay, so now that you got those top ones all greased up and put back together, remember to just seat your seals. For the actual like centering of these, you just want them somewhat close. They will shift as you put them in, but if you're like miles out, you're not going to be able to put the swing arm back in. So now if you come down to where the wishbone, dog bone connects down here, you've got another one that will just slide right out. And you've got a bearing on each side to pack, and then again lube the outside of this thing, and we'll pop it back in. Okay, so congratulations, that marks the end of the greasy grease. Don't throw your gloves away just yet if you've only got the 1 pair, and don't throw your tube of grease away just yet out of excitement. We're going to use it one more time, but it's only going to be to just lube the big shaft, before you put it in. But that won't be as bad. So yeah, go ahead, get your gloves off, and then what we're going to be moving on to from there is swapping out the chain rubbing strip, or chain guide, whatever you want to call it. So to remove this chain rubbing guide or chain strip, whatever you want to call it, there is just a 5mm Allen on the side here. So go ahead and remove that. And while I remove this, I'm going to give you the little warning here. This chain rubbing guide can be purchased separately, or it can be purchased with your service C kit. So that is totally up to you, whichever way you want to do it. You're supposed to replace it every 20,000. So it's, you know, it's your call if you just want to get this separate and do this with this, or if you want to, you know, do it with your C kit. So obviously, since I'm doing his like 20K, just in case you notice that, fold this out like that and then twist it. Ta-da! That's how you get that off. So one more time, just kind of like that. But yeah, as I was saying, since I'm going to be doing his 20K kit, he's already got this. Now, if you notice here, there is a little spacer thing for the bolts that does not come on the new one. And ask me how I know this, because I've done this 3 times on my bike. Put this in before you put this on, because it's so tough to like pull this out enough to like slip your finger in there and pop it in there. So definitely be careful. You can pop these in after it's already on. So I'll show you how we put that on in just a second. I heard a vehicle pull up. I think it's the owner of this bike. It definitely does make your life easier if you pop these strips in before you go ahead and put this on. They really only go in one way. You can see where they pop out with their little tangs. If you use a screwdriver from this side, you can pop them through. So go ahead, work those in. All right, so now that you've got your little bolt spacer popped in, your chain rubbing strip bushings, go ahead, hook that over your swing arm, work it up there like that. Make sure you get it over top of that belt guard. And there you have it. So now for the bolt, put a little bit of blue Loctite on there, and then you're going to torque that to 9 Newton meters. All right, so before you go ahead and slide your swing arm in there, get your bolt ready, put a little smear of grease just the top to the bottom, or you can do a little bit of engine oil. That is what the work instructions tell you to do. Make your own choice. So then you're going to take your swing arm and you're going to tilt it just like I showed you on the way out. Clear your exhaust. And there you go, it's popped in there. So once you have it in there, just kind of hold it up with your left arm, come around to this side, and then you'll be able to like fight your way through with this. And so now the bolt is fully in. If you remember that long bolt that went through the wishbone or dog bone, whatever you want to call it, go ahead, put a little bit of lube or grease or engine oil right around the shoulder there, not on the threads though. And then we're gonna put that through and just line them up, get it kind of half-ass caught in there. And then from there, get your swing arm up and get that popped through. So now we're going to put the swing arm nut on, and then we're going to put the nut on that bolt that is going through the dog bone, and get both of them touched down. So you probably forgot or thought I forgot about this front bolt. You're going to go ahead, put a little bit of blue on that one, and then you'll have both of these touched down, and you're going to torque the both of them to 80 Newton meters. So for the swing arm pivot, don't forget to put your washer on. And then you're going to put your nut on with a little bit of blue Loctite. And then you're going to be torquing this to 110 Newton meters, which is about 90 foot-pounds. Yeah, about 88 foot-pounds. So once you start putting a little bit of tension on this one, that's where having that one locked into the foot peg is going to play a part. If you were lucky like I was on this bike, then you won't have to actually hold it for the way out, but you'll definitely have to hold it for the way in. So before you go ahead and pop these swing arm covers in, don't lube what actually goes into the bolt. Just lube this outer O-ring so that it seats in the frame a little bit easier. And then the best option would be to use the 3mm Allen, and then you're gonna line that up and you're gonna push, make sure it's fully seated in there. And then when you tighten this Allen, it'll cinch it up. On my own personal bike, I had these things like strip out and not tighten on the way back in, so I had to replace them. Hopefully yours you luck out. Hopefully on these ones we luck out and we don't have to replace them. All right, so now you're going to take those long 8mm bolts that you had originally removed, and you're going to reinstall that lower chain guard, and you're going to torque it to 7 Newton meters. All right, so now that you have that lower chain guard on, you're going to need your chain to go in the right spot. So we're going to cut those zip ties that we previously put on there, and then just lay your chain in a way like it went before. So hook it around on the inside of the swing arm. So don't forget for that upper bolt that it goes on this side, like the side closest to you of the swing arm. Just like that. And then you're gonna feed the bolt through that hole, get it lined up, and then the other two are super easy to line up, and you're gonna torque all of those to 9 Newton meters. All right, so now that you've got that chain guard on, you're gonna go ahead and cut these 2 zip ties, get your brakes set back on here, and then you're gonna put your 2 bolts in for your brake lines, and you're gonna torque those to, 1 second, I'll double check. So you're gonna torque those to 6 Newton meters. And then unfortunately, this is where I'm gonna have to leave you off on this video because we're waiting on some parts to finish up with the back wheel. Don't worry though, you can always refer back to that video I had made showing the very detailed process of removing the rear wheel. However, if you remember from the removal, all we did was we had the brakes in here, we rolled the tire forward, hooked the chain on it, lift it into place, slide the axle through, push it all the way forward to your adjusters, which we haven't changed, so your chain tension is still going to be good. And then you're going to torque it to 110 Newton meters. The main purpose of this video was to show you how to lube everything, how to replace your chain guide. Hopefully it helped you out. If you're new to this, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And as always, thanks for taking the time and watching.